This might be the best designed spec ever made in Guild Wars 2. When we saw the trailer, guys, I was not that much of a fan. I was like, yeah, it looks cool, but once seeing the live stream explaining all the mechanics and how they intertwine with each other, how they interact with each other, and all the cool, unique buffs you can give yourself and your allies, this is just peak Guild Wars 2. And the animations, guys, look, you have a lance, you have a huge sword. I mean, look at that. You have the spinning hammer too. Look at that too. Oh my god. You have whatever this is. And the ultimate, the elite. God damn. So badass. And we haven't even talked about the fact that you can actually give yourself more, well, better might and your allies. 20% lifesteal to you and your allies. And much, much more. Nobody can tell me that this is not the literal winner of at least this expansion. But let's go through everything that makes this beautiful spec so good. Subscribe to the channel for more content like this. Go to my Ko-Fi if you want to support my content. Go to my Twitch to watch me live every morning. And let's get into it. Let's first talk about the profession mechanics. So usually in Engineer, depending on your utilities, your tool belt, your little F1, F2, F3, F4 would change. But now this time they're separated. You can just pick them up by clicking on them as you saw right there. Your F1 will be tied to your heal ability though. And your F5 will make you be this like Silver Surfer, like metal character of yourself, right? And this will buff you in a very particular way. First of all, it gives you 10% more attributes. But the big thing here is gain additional effects based on the morph skills you have slotted. And the morph skills are what we talked about before. The abilities you pick on your F2, F3, and F4. The F1 doesn't seem to give you anything, which is kind of interesting, but regardless. And you have offensive ones to do damage, and defensive ones to just, well, have some utility. And you can see here the strain, resilient strain. These are the effects that will be used whenever you evolve. The strains, they have different names, but you get what it is. So you not only want to change your F1, F2, F3, F4, depending on the abilities you get, but also on the effects you get when you evolve. And we'll talk about this later, but there's other things to make your evolve change, but that's a spoiler. We're not talking about that right now. Now let's go through all of the abilities. First of all is defensive and purple protect, morph, briefly block incoming attacks. You're gonna press the button and you're gonna get this little shield of Quicksilver, of Mercury, of the Quicksilver fungus that will protect you from your enemies, which is a very powerful effect, especially for something like PvP or Warper's World. It also gives you some barrier and resistance, which is nice, and it's a good amount of barrier, almost 5k, and resistance is always nice, so you can move out of something like immobilization or whatever. A pretty PvP Warper's World coded spec, ability. For PvE, it definitely can be useful though, for very particular fights though, if you really know that you're gonna have to block something coming very soon. I just really hope that we're not in a situation where on PvE we have to use all the DPS morphs. I hope that we have a little bit of flexibility on which ones to use. Now, depending on the utility, you will also be changing your evolve animation, right? Which is actually very, very cool. I'm not gonna go through all the possibilities because they change a lot, but I think that detail, the amount of detail is very, very, very nice. The next one is going to be Defensive Protocol Cleanse. This one, typical thing, converts damaging conditions to barrier and non-damaging conditions to protection. That can be very, very useful. And you can see the little blob just coming in there and just healing yourself, transforming those conditions into something else. Very cool that it transformed into a very particular effect, barrier and protection. Both very, very useful. Very barrier-focused spec, it seems like. And the last thing, the strain, evolving heals you over time and grants alacrity. There's going to be a little bit of a heal that it goes, oof, look at that. It goes little by little, but that can be very, very useful in certain situations where you just want your heal to go little by little because you have something else healing you at the same time and you're taking damage over time. I don't know, but it's a nice effect to be had. It also gives you alacrity, which also can be very useful to get other beautiful utilities or weapon attacks to just, be available. And it's also a stun break. Well, your evolve is now a stun break, I guess. Pretty simple, but pretty useful as well. The next one is going to be Defensive Protocol Thorns. Grow protective strikes damaging enemies, and you can look at that. I mean, it makes sense. If you get hit by this, yeah, it's gonna hurt. Initial damage is 882. And thorn damage is 588. So every time you get stuck, you get damage, you'll do 500 damage, almost 600. It'll also give you some stability. Only one stack, but that's nice. It was noted in the live stream that if you get hit by this and you're not melee, it will not matter. You will not get hit by it because it spikes. You know, you need to be close to them to actually hit you. Makes sense, I think. And while evolved, strikes foes an additional time when you hit them. So same thing as the Harbinger attack. You attack once, you're gonna get a buff on that attack to do even more damage. As we talked about before, these specs will be, in this particular effects can be shared with a particular trait. So you are gonna be able to give this to your allies, but obviously that damage is gonna be counting towards your damage. So you're just gonna apply them to everyone else. It also stuns break, so that's an interesting one. You probably don't want two of these defensives that stun break because it's overkill. But yeah, there you go. Now here we have our first offensive protocol, the little spear kind of attack, the little lance. Pretty cool animation, as I said before, and it'll just do some damage, do a stun. It's unblockable, and it has some vulnerability. When you evolve, stun nearby enemies, so it's an AoE stun now. It becomes your evolve becomes an AoE stun. Pretty cool. Pretty straightforward though, but I like it. Good for PvE, good for PvP. Pretty big animation, so you can react to it. You don't want to get hit by it. Pretty nice. The next one is my favorite, the big sword. Look at that. God damn. I am Sephiroth now. Oh, what happened with my throat? Oh. It's 7 in the morning, guys. I'm a bit groggy. Create a giant blade to maim your enemy. This attack destroys the barrier of enemies' hits. Holy, guys, do you understand what this means? If there's a boss in Guild Wars 2 that has barrier, you attack them with this, the barrier disappears. If there's an enemy on PvP in Warver's World that has barrier, boom, it disappears. Isn't that insanely good? Insanely powerful. Honestly, I'm glad that now we can actually do something against Scourges in PvP. Amalgam PvP meta incoming. It also applies some bleeding, good for Condi. And look at this. Your evolve will make it so your might does more damage, guys. That's incredibly powerful. Not having this in PvE, probably a mistake. And also, guys, guess what? You can share this, so you can make everybody on your party have a better might too. I would be surprised if you can stack this. I don't think you're gonna be able to stack this, but this might actually have to be changed or it will break the meta and everybody's gonna have to be like, okay guys, can we get an amalgam in our party? That's the only way you play the game, right? We don't want another role in our hands, guys. The next attack is this one right here. You throw these little shurikens. This amalgam shurikens, this fungus quicksilver shurikens. Pretty cool animation. It just does some normal damage. And it's called Offensive Purple Shred. Launch cutting discs at your enemies, piercing enemies in their path. Enemies struck are crippled. If an enemy is struck by all 3 discs, they're mobilized instead. Pretty cool ability, especially in PvP. I could, you know, like, hey, you want to hit all this, and if you get hit by all this, you get very punished. So it's all in the reactor's responsibility to not get the whole value of this, right? Like you don't want to get crippled, you don't want to be immobilized, especially. So pretty high risk reward ability, which I really appreciate. Now when you evolve, you're gonna get yourself super speed, pretty nice, for 8 seconds, which is a good amount of time. It's a combo finisher, physical projectile, and it can give you quickness for 8 seconds. And now here, guys, have we seen something? Are you guys making the connection? Yeah, you can actually use this and get the trait that we're gonna talk about later, there you go, to share this to your allies. I like how I just spoiled that trait. It's just too impactful. I think it's better to just talk about it now. Okay, to be honest, I don't even care. let's just look at it. Okay, contagious mutation, strain enhancement effects are shared to nearby allies when activated with a reduced duration, 25% reduced. But this is very important. Okay, this is very, very important because it can give you quickness, one of the biggest, most important boons in the game. And thing is, and as we had talked about before, you also have the other one that gives you alacrity. So this means that you could give a quickness and alacrity spec here. That's insane. Now, I'm not gonna lie, guys, I don't think this is gonna be the way it works. I doubt that they're gonna let us be having quickness and alacrity in one spec, especially with something like obliterate, because then you just have a new role, right? That's what you have. You have a role that is used for giving quickness and alacrity, and you always have to have an amalgam on your team. That's the conclusion of this, if this stays this way, which I very much doubt. They're gonna make it so I don't know, maybe you can pick offensive protocol shred and defensive protocol cleanse at the same time. They will do something to make this unviable. I'm sure they will. I personally like the idea of just merging quickness and alacrity into one thing. So you just have like, I think the idea is that they call it celerity. And this would change the entire game though. So I understand that it's like a bit scary to do, but I wish they would have gone that for that idea back in the day when they did this like quickness alacrity kind of rework. But it is what it is. We're here now. I doubt they're gonna go back on it. Now next is offensive protocol demolish, the last one. And this one, guys, it just does damage. It's a combo finisher whirl and a combo finisher blast, and it's of course the little hammer, the spinning hammer. Look at that little guy. Beautiful animation. You even have the spikes at the end. Super cool. And evolving gives you 20% healing from damage, normal damage, and of course condition. So just have 20% life steal. Absolutely incredible. Plus gives 5 stacks of stability. Now I think these 5 stacks of stability don't get shared in the same way when you get the trade for sharing. I think it's only 1, because 5 stacks is a lot to share. This is an insanely good effect. Even without the stability, just having 20% just lifesteal, that's insane. That's absolutely insane. So yeah, now you can just pick and choose whichever type of offensive or defensive protocol you want to make your build perfect. Depending on whether you want to be more of a support or more selfish, you're going to take different things. But it's actually pretty interesting to me that you probably are going to go for the offensive ones as DPS. Particularly the obliterate and the shred. I think they're probably going to be... Well, I guess the obliterate is the big one because you have might, right? And then the other ones, you're probably going to be able to choose whichever. They do more or less the same amount of damage, right? So you can choose the CC one, you can choose the lifesteal stability one, or you can choose the quickness one if you want to do a boon, or you can go for the alacrity one if you're gonna do for another boon, right? It's kind of cool too that the defensive protocol thorns is a defensive one, but it's also kind of offensive. So I can really see you going for, especially in a DPS build, just, yeah, the obliterate is kind of obligatory, but everything else you can really pick and choose. So you know that worry that I had about, oh, we're gonna be forced to play this one or this one and that's it? I don't know if that applies. I think it's gonna be very similar. I think you're gonna be able to just pick and choose whichever you want depending on your gameplay, which is exactly what you want. Although I'm not gonna lie, guys, the 20% healing, 20% lifesteal, that's maybe that is necessary. Maybe you have to pick this one. It's too good. All right, moving on. Let's go to the utilities. Now these are just stances. There's not really that much to it. They just do one thing, and you know that's it. They just do the thing that it says. Unlike other specs with the utility have a lot of interaction with the profession, it doesn't seem like this one's do that. They just do the thing. The first is gonna be the healing, and this one changes your F1, right? This one is your slime stimulates your cell to regenerate, healing your body over time. The healing is increased while you have barrier. Pretty simple, and you know, there's a lot of little spells here that little utilities that, hey, you know, they heal you over time. It don't heal you instantly, which I think it's an interesting way of going for things. I think it makes sense when you have this much amount of barrier. You do have a lot of barrier in this spec, so this way you can just slowly get it while your barrier is tanking the damage, right? If you have this, the F1 will transform itself into barrier and magnetic aura, symbiotic shielding. Magnetic aura reflects, that's pretty nice. So, and it gives you the barrier, right? So Mutionic state interacts with barrier, so you want to use symbiotic shielding to get the barrier, and then instantly use mitotic state to get a better heal than before, right? Pretty cool interaction there. Now we have our first ability here. You can check how we're jumping. Solid state, you transform yourself into a solid and leap in the air, boom, destroying everything around you. Pretty cool animation, especially on the floor. I think it does some damage, it gives stability, and it gives you a buff that every stun that you do for 5 seconds will be increased. That's pretty nice. I'm guessing that this applies to the one that you just used. I guess we can't really know until we test it. It's a common finisher blast. It's just, hey, you know, do CC. The next one is gonna be this. You become a little puddle, guys. Look at that little puddle little guy. You do some damage or you're becoming a puddle as well. And it's called liquid state. Makes sense. Damage, just normal damage, poison, and cripple. And you evade for 1 second, 1 3/4. It is obviously a defensive ability you want to use, right? As another dodge. I will say I didn't have a problem with the animation, but I saw Wooden Potatoes talk about this ability and how the animation kind of sucks, and I'm not gonna lie, he's kind of right. It's a little bit weird how, it's a little bit uncanny on how you're moving with it, and it just doesn't really do anything. It's just kind of like like an image just sliding through the floor. I didn't really get a. I'm not gonna lie, guys. He ruined the ability for me. Like, I was happy, and now I'm looking at it, and I'm like, dude, what the fuck? I just didn't. And now I've ruined the spec for you. Get fucked, guys. Next one is gaseous state. Sublimate a breaking stone from yourself. You become a little gaseous little guy. Remove movement impairment conditions and prevent every application. It's a stone break. It's like, oh no, I'm stuck. I want to get out of here. I'm immobilized. I'm crippled. Help, help, help. You press the button. You get out of that. Kind of a very PvP coded ability. I'm not sure if we would use this in PvE that much. I will say, you know, the animation in terms of the Quicksilver is actually pretty cool. I like the little blob just going around you, cleansing yourself. But I feel like the entire body should become gaseous. You shouldn't have the model of yourself just going with you. Like, I feel like that's a bit weird. It should work more like Ellie's 2, downside 2, right? I don't know why they couldn't go for that. Otherwise, it just looks like you have a lot of flatulence, guys, and I'm not sure if that's what they want with gaseous state. I don't think anyone wants that type of gaseous state on this spec, okay? That's what I'm saying, okay? It also gives you 66% more movement speed, which is nice. Next is gonna be plasmatic state, and that one, oh god, that's the DPS one, guys. That's the one you have to take. You want to blast damage. It gives you, look, it just does damage and you give burning. Look at that, guys. That's super cool, and it gives you a buff that will do more damage and more condi for the next 5 seconds. This is gonna be a necessary one for your DPS build. You're gonna have to, you want to upkeep this as much as you can, and you said before you do a big amount of damage and big burst. That is pretty obvious here. Very cool ability though. Very, very cool ability. Very cool animation. Very inconsistent in terms of animations, this spec is. I don't know why I talked like Yoda there, but yeah, it is what it is. And now the elite lock state. I guess it's every state at the same time. And the animation here, guys, they put all the budget into this animation, guys. They didn't do gaseous state good, they didn't do liquid state good, because they wanted to do this, because goddamn, what an animation. Beautiful, so epic, so cool, and it does a lot of damage. You got damage, storm damage 12 times, 4,000 damage. That's a lot of damage. Some bleed as well coming in here. It's a pole too, so you do some CC. There's not really that much going for this, other than, hey, it does a lot of damage, guys. It's a big burst, which is fine. It's a DPS spec. It's okay to have that, to be honest. And the whole entirety of the interesting parts of the spec are in the professions abilities. So I'm not gonna complain too much. I think it would be nice to have like a special thing here, but we have so many cool things in here that I think it would be going overboard to have even more in the elite. So yeah, good job on this ability. And now let's go for these traits. And guys, these traits, chef's kiss, okay? They're beautiful. And we're gonna see this, as I talked about yesterday, in every one of these specs. First of all, the minors, okay? The ones that you always get, regardless of what you pick. Big gain vitality, gain barrier when you use a morph skill, giving you more incentive to use your morph skills, especially in an offensive manner. Even if they're offensive, they're gonna give you a little better. Isn't that nice? Spam those buttons when you're scared, and you'll be fine. Willing host. Using a morph skills increases your damage for a duration. So this will make it so you can't spam it as much. You want to upkeep this 10 seconds. You want to use one morph skill every 10 seconds. So you get that 15% more damage buff overall, right? For condition and power, you want to be using this. You want to be upkeeping it. And this will give you a very specific type of flow on this spec. Now let's go for the first trait on the left. Convert conditions to boons when you use a stance skill or above. Typical trait. We've seen this in every one of the specs. Hey, you want some combustion? I merged combustion and boons. There we go. No, wait, combustion and conditions. I like that, actually. We're gonna... The combustion traits, guys. Convert conditions to boons when you use a stance skill or evolve. That's nice. Especially in PvP. We're gonna give a little, you know, yellow, as we always do. Yellow little marker here for the PvP traits. Okay, this is gonna be very, very nice. I doubt we're gonna be able to make a healing build on here, guys. I'm not going to lie, but you know, we'll see. You know, we'll leave blue for boon / heal, and we're gonna give red for full DPS. All right. Heal every second while you have barrier. Oh wait, sorry. Heal every second while you have barrier. Heal when you evolve. This only applies to you, so more super ability. I think this also applies to PP mainly, right? Very utility focused one. and you're in PvE, you're gonna get healed by someone else. But you can have it for open world, I guess, if you really wanted to. Hardened Chrome. Morph skills and involving grant protection to yourself. Also, PvP, to be honest. It's just utility. That's all there is to it. Protection. Having protection. Very, very nice. For solo open world, also very useful. Having 30% less incoming damage. That's also great. And it seems like all the first traits are indeed just complete utility. Now, if you're in PvE, you probably would end up going for this one, I think. Heal yourself more when you have barrier. You probably don't care that much about having self-protection because someone in your squad is gonna give you protection. You can go for it, but I really like this, honestly. Sometimes I feel like the traits on the first line, they're always kind of like, if you're going DPS, go for this. If you're going boon, go for this. I kind of like the fact that here you can actually pick whatever you want depending on the situation. If there's a lot of conditions, you pick this one, especially even in PvE, right? If there's a lot of damage, you can pick this one. If you're not getting yourself protection, if someone is not giving it to you, you can get yourself this, right? Like it's just, I don't know. You can just pick and choose. I love that type of design. I think it's great. Next one, second tier traits. Amalgam skill inflict poison on hit. Poison you inflict lasts longer. So this is for a Condi build. Isn't that nice? That's interesting. Not something I was expecting this spec to be. But there you go. You can go for Condi if you really want to. DPS, power, or Condi. Well, maybe, who knows? Maybe we don't have any power and we only have Condi. But I really like this. It gives a particular interaction with poison, so maybe you end up changing one of the utilities to give more poison. I'm sure there's a lot of that in engineer. You can go for alchemy as well to get that going a little bit more. There's a lot of fire interaction in the spec though. I'm kind of surprised it doesn't say something like it's poison and fire, but it is what it is. Mercurial tendencies. Disabling an enemy reduces the cooldown of evolve, and this is also obviously for a power build, right? For a DPS build, because more evolve means more damage, right? And this will probably force you to go into something like hammer. That's what I would guess, right? Hammer having a lot of CC. Well, I guess you only have your 5. It's not. I'm trying to think. You could go sword shield, I guess, too. Oh, maybe you go mace because you have a CC on 3, and then you can go mace shield and do double C with that. Oh, that's interesting. I don't know. We'll have to see how the meta ends up going, right? That's I like that. And then Silver Lining, evolve no longer inherits bonuses from strains. Morph skills grant their strain bonuses at that reduced duration. Now this is what I call a PP trait. I think you can probably use it in PvE too. Maybe not as much, but look, the strains effects are pretty useful. They have a lot of utility on them, right? And it kind of sucks that, you can only use them when you use evolve. And evolve use all of them. So even if you only need one, you're gonna use all of them anyways, right? In PvE, that's not that big of a deal because you might go for like some huge DPS build, right? Where all those effects are just you do more damage, right? But in PvP, or maybe sometimes in PvP where you do want to go for a little bit more utility, this is not gonna be what you want. I mean, sorry, this is what you, well, having everything on evolve is not gonna be what you want. This is gonna be what you want, right? To be able to use more of skills, even with a reduced duration, exactly what you want them. I want the stability right now, not everything else. I use that. I want the lifesteal. I use that. I want the stun. No, I want the strike force an additional time when I hit them. I want the barrier or resistance. Not everything together. Very awesome trait. Honestly, a trait that you could even argue that should be in the Grandmaster because of how impactful and how much it changes the entire spec. And we haven't even gotten to the Grandmasters, guys. And believe me, they're absolutely great too. And here you have it. Symbiotic Energy. Evolve recharges morph skills. Morph skills deal increased strike damage. Obviously, this is, okay? This is indeed the big DPS one, okay? Damage increased by 33%. If you're going for damage, you're gonna go for any of this, right? You wanna, whether you're Condi here, right, guys? Or whether you're just power, you're gonna want to go in here and pick this with it. Right? Makes a lot of sense. More damage. You use your morph skills, right? You use evolve, you recharge them, you go again, and so on and so on. Very, very interesting flow. Very obvious one, right? Very obvious type of gameplay you want to go for here. And of course, the one we've talked about so much, even before we even get here, contagious mutation. Strain enhancement effects are shared to nearby allies when activated with reduced duration. I could definitely see someone going for this, right? In PvE, but this would be more of like a, hey, I'm gonna do quickness provide quickness, I'm gonna provide alacrity, and also I'm gonna be providing all of these other things as well, right? I'm gonna be providing all of these other boons, all these other effects. You're gonna have two different types of amalgams: the ones that go full DPS, or the ones that go alacrity or quickness, and they also give you a little bit of these other effects on you. And I'm not gonna lie, I think I would rather have this. You know, I'd rather have a boon DPS amalgam than a full DPS one. I guess you could take this for... No, this doesn't make any sense. And I was gonna like, oh, maybe you can just go full DPS and have this anyways. I don't really see a reason to do that. It just doesn't make a lot of sense when you can be giving quickness and alacrity as well. Or, well, quickness or alacrity, right? So, yeah, you pick this for that. There's no reason. Let's make the PvP, guys, into PvP or boon DPS as well, guys. Because that's really... It just goes for the same thing, right? And we can pair it up with this, with Silver Lining, obviously, if you so want to be able to use the effects in a very particular manner. Or you can actually go and just instead go for, I don't know, any of the other ones, right? The con DPS one or the power DPS one, to maybe, hey, you have a little bit less utility but you do a little bit more damage. That works too. And the last one is Evolve has 2 charges and grants an increased attribute bonus. God damn, that also could be a DPS one. More attributes, and you have 2 charges. You know what? You could pick this. I'm not sure which one is gonna be the winner here, guys. I feel like you could pick this one for DPS too. The attribute bonus is gonna be nice, and you have 2 evolves. I guess it's gonna be like, hey, what type of gameplay do you want? Do you want to use evolve twice, or do you want to use your morph skills, then evolve, then recharge your morph skills? What do you want? More evolves or more morph skills? Pick and choose. Both of them are gonna be probably very similar in terms of damage, so yeah, just pick the one you want. I'm just gonna go there, gonna make a little bit of like it. Well, I guess we can't really go for it. This is, look, this may be the craziest this may be the craziest trait line that we have seen in terms of how much they can combine with each other. Pretty cool stuff, I will say. We do seem to have like almost 3 builds here, like one boon DPS one that can also be applied for PvP, or 2 DPS ones, right? Whether it's Condi or Power, or whether it's Symbiotic Energy or Double Helix, Morph focused or Evolve focused. And that's the thing about the spec, guys. It morphs to whatever you want it to do. It can go anywhere, and not only has cool animations, a cool idea for it, but it is also just so flexible. So interesting in terms of traits, so interesting in terms of unique buffs. You will want, regardless of whether they nerf it a little bit, you will want an amalgam in your squad, in your subgroup. An amalgam and a rich list probably, and they may have to rework or give a bit more buffs to different classes so they can pair up with these new ones. But I don't know, I kind of like it. I kind of like the fact that we bring unique buffs, but unique buffs that are actually healthy for the game, instead of, oh, we need this in the game, we need this in my squad. Hey, lifesteal is not needed, but it is a cool utility to have. They are gonna have to nerf that might one though, that's for sure. They might, the sharing better might, that they can't stay. That will force everyone to play this in everywhere. Yeah, so hopefully they nerf that. And the quickness and the alacrity at the same time also needs to be nerfed. You can't have that in the game either. So I'm sure they'll do that. I'm not really worried. Maybe in the beta we'll see it, just because they want to be like, oh, look, guys, look how good Amalgam is. And honestly, in a lot of ways, it's a good thing, because it's like, hey, we want people to be excited for it. We want all the specs to be super powerful in the beta, just so people are like, oh, super excited. And then you can maybe nerf them a little bit in the release, and then actually make them balanced when, you know, a few weeks from that, from there. But there you go. Let me know what you guys think about the best spec ever made. And I'm gonna say that. I don't even care at this point. I do agree with that. I'm just gonna, this is my favorite spec ever. Like, we're gonna do a tier list on the best specs of this expansion, right? At least the predictions for them. No, maybe not the best spec ever, but definitely the best designed. Yeah, at least now. Maybe one of these reworks for the other classes that we're gonna see this new expansion will make them better. But until now, this is definitely the best one. And I struggle to think of any other better designed spec in the rest of the game, I'm not gonna lie. But Yeah, let me know what you guys think in the comments down below. Subscribe to the channel for more content like this. Go to my Ko-Fi. Oh, there we go. Go to my Ko-Fi if you want to support my content. Like M, Soydalian, Miragon, Trader Boy, Neko Meko, Minimart, Tilt, Seawix, Butterball, question marks, Say, Noggin, J Mongus, and Mine Bowen. And thank you very much for watching, guys. See you guys around. Love you all.